What's going on, everyone? Cyclops from Paramount Cyclops here. And Trump supporters, for 4 years you have been called every name in the book. You have been called every social justice warrior buzz word. You have been pretty much demonized. You have been called the lowest of the low, the most racist of people ever. People who are unaccepting, which is weird because my experience is that my people, the Democrats, are the ones who are unaccepting. My people, the Democrats, are the ones who are more focused on your race being the deciding factor. My people tend to be the ones that are intolerant. It is the other people, the Trump supporters, that tend to listen to all sides, that hear the arguments, haven't attacked people, and tend to be level-headed. Well, Trump supporters, for 4 years you have been demonized, and now everybody expects you to fall in line behind Biden. Even though there are many questions, just questions. Not saying that there is any of the F word, as in fraud, on our votes. I'm not saying that. I am not saying that, YouTube. What I'm saying is there are questions that should be answered. But for some reason we live in a world where we can't even ask the questions. Well, Matthew McConaughey kind of points it all out from Fox News. Let's read this. But before we do, I hope that I can be a part of your information diet, and that I can inform you in some way, shape, or form. And if I have, please consider subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. Matthew McConaughey speaks out on illiberals, extreme right cancel culture causing divides in the U.S. Yeah. Matthew McConaughey spoke out once again on the political divide in America, as well as cancel culture and the coronavirus pandemic. Cancel culture is another one that's just absurd. We don't cancel people that we disagree with. That's just not the way we should do it. How are these people going to learn anything? They're just going to get animosity towards you. Rather than coming up and saying, hey, I think your views are wrong. Here's why I think your views are wrong. Here's my evidence on why I think your views are wrong. No, we jump right to the cancel them. What happened to educate them? What happened to have a little bit of compassion? What happened to maybe it's not their fault? They were grown up this way if they disagree, or they actually really do have ideas that are way out there. And then again, what if they don't have ideas that are way out there and it's just us that are overreacting? Cancel culture is not good. Cancel culture. The Dallas Buyers Club actor made waves last week when he appeared on Russell Brand's podcast to discuss what he sees as the hypocrisy of asking conservatives to rally behind President-elect Joe Biden after 4 years of animosity toward President Donald Trump and his supporters. And that's the thing. People could not separate people from position. They saw Trump and they saw red. They were like bulls in the arena. All they saw was red and they just had to charge after it. Head down, horns out, full blast, running 100% towards their target. Well, it's not the way to do it. We're Americans. We're not just Republicans. We're not just Democrats. We're not just conservatives or liberals or independents or moderates or centrists. We're Americans. And at the end of the day, when the election's over and there's no one to vote for, we're stuck in this together. Why are you going to take half the country and bury them? It doesn't make sense. Wouldn't you rather reach out your hand and invite them over and discuss things, have a meal, have a drink, figure out what commonalities you have, and move on? Appearing virtually on Tuesday's episode of Good Morning Britain, the star elaborated on his comments, noting that neither liberals nor conservatives are to blame for the country's deep political divide, but rather extremists on both sides of the aisle. Yes, and it's not one or the other. It's not the extreme left and it's not the extreme right. It's the conglomeration of both of them trying to push polar opposite and mutually exclusive extreme ideas. It's an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. And it just polarizes. And you have these two ends here that are so extreme, and it's like two black holes. And all of us are here in the middle, and these black holes are just sucking us up into one side or the other. And it's getting to the point where it's like, well, what side are you on? That extreme or that extreme? None! I'm right here in the middle, trying to float around and navigate. You need liberals. What I don't think we need is the illiberals. And what I don't think that some liberals see is that they're often being cannibalized by the illiberals. McConaughey explained to host Susanna Reid and Piers Morgan, now there are extremes on both sides that I think are unfair, and I don't think are the right place to be. Extremes are never the right place to be. Normally, if you're able to step back and take your partisan hat off and look at the situation from outside looking in, I think you're going to find that it's a little bit of the left and a little bit of the right that makes sense, and a little bit of the left and a little bit of the right that doesn't make sense. If you get in the middle and you look at things from an objective perspective, I think you're going to find that both sides have things right, both sides have things wrong, and that's the great thing about America, is that we can get together and look at our evidences, weigh our evidences against their evidences, take the bad stuff, throw it out, keep the good stuff, and move on with good policy, as long as we're able to discuss things. The extreme left and the extreme right completely illegitimize the other side, the liberals and conservatives side, which we need in certain places. The two extremes illegitimize those two sides, or they exaggerate that side's stance into an irrational state that makes no sense, and that's not fair when either side does that. And he's not wrong. He's absolutely right. Yes. It's both sides, and both sides do it, and it's the extremes, and us in the middle are looking at it like this is absurd. It is not all of that or all of this. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. And no matter what you do, someone's going to call you an extreme for the other side if you say something that they personally disagree with. Well, how about sometimes I agree with the left, sometimes I agree with the right, sometimes I disagree with the left, sometimes I disagree with the right. In discussing how deeply divided America seems to be at the end of 2020, the actor also briefly touched upon cancel culture. He noted that everyone should be paying attention to see what the future holds for the concept of freedom of speech. Well, that's the thing. That's the problem. Freedom of speech used to be tangible. It used to be quantifiable. It used to be something that you knew where you stood. Now, it's simply just a concept. And that's all. And we need to correct that. Freedom of speech cannot just be a concept. It is the cornerstone of our democracy. Our democratic republic, excuse me. If freedom of speech goes away, then so do all of your other rights. Because if freedom of speech goes away, and you're not allowed to talk about things when they start going south, and you're not allowed to talk about things, and your narrative is framed for you, well then your rights are going to be stripped away because you're leaving it open for them to take them. You may as well just take your rights, put them on a silver platter, march them right over to whoever wants them, and say, here you go. Where the waterline is going to land on this freedom of speech, and what we allow and what we don't, and where this cancel culture goes, where that waterline lands is a very interesting place that we are engaged in right now as a society, that we're trying to figure out because we haven't found the right spot, he explained. We had the right spot. So it's not that we don't know where the right spot is. We know where the right spot is. It's just we got too many people grabbing the wheel and trying to adjust it more towards their end. How about hands off, and you let the American people naturally evolve as it has been. We come up with things that are at issue. Is this a freedom of speech issue? We analyze it. We look at it as a nation. as a whole, and we as a nation decide, hey, is this the way we want it or not? I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Despite his calls for unity and understanding, the Star noted that confrontation is still an essential part of any working society. It absolutely is. Hoorah! I always say on my channel, listen to dissenting opinions. You cannot say that your belief systems are correct if you've never had your belief systems challenged. If you live in a house and people have told you that the sky is pink, purple, and blue polka dotted, and you've never been outside, you've never looked outside, and that's all you've lived in is an echo chamber, then you're going to think the sky is pink and blue polka dotted. Well, how shocked are you going to be when you finally walk outside and see it's blue, and how betrayed are you going to feel knowing that everybody said, well, you said it was this way, and then it's not? How about expand your mind, do your own research, and hear dissenting opinions? Someone comes in your house and says, well, but the sky is blue. Don't just shut them down saying, no, everybody here says it's pink and purple polka dotted. Maybe go to them and say, well, why do you say the sky is blue? Maybe they say, well, because I've seen it with my own eyes. And then you investigate and you're like, well, I'm not saying that I don't believe you. All I've heard is it's pink and blue polka dotted, but I would really like for you to show me your evidence showing that it's blue. And then they grab your hand, they take you outside and they say, look, see that? It's blue. And then you can get into the philosophical argument of, is it really blue? Visual light versus non-visual light. You've got to have confrontation to have unity. Yes, you do. Freedom is about putting yourself at risk, not just physically, but also putting your belief system at risk, putting your comfort at risk. That's when a democracy works really well, he said. I would argue we don't have true confrontation right now. Confrontation that gives some validation and legitimizes the opposing point of view. We don't give a legitimacy or validation to an opposing point of view. We make it persona non grata. And that's unconstitutional. Yeah, it is. It is. We should always be able to hear and at least discuss a dissenting opinion. Why can't we ask questions? Why is our narrative slowly being framed for us? Why are we slowly being told what we can say? And every time we go through this, it gets worse and worse. We're limited more and more and more and more. Elsewhere in the interview, the Star said he believes a lot in the stress America seems to be going through right now can be directly blamed on the Big C, causing uncertainty among Americans who may never experienced it on this scale before. None of us have experienced it on this scale before. Limbo is the hardest part, he said. I think we all do better when we have a definitive yes or no, or an understanding of when the ending is going to be of something. Yeah, that's human nature. It's the unknown that scares us more. That's why we make things to create the unknown into knowns. And then as time goes on, we have confrontation on those unknowns, and we discover knowns out of those unknowns. Let's see. Of some crisis, the ending of some crisis. We haven't had that for some time. So it's been sort of a one-way ticket to limbo. Yeah. And he's not right. It's good to challenge yourself. It's good to challenge your belief system. It's good. It's good. Dissenting opinions are good. Anyways, I love you guys. I'll keep you informed, at least as far as my opinion and what I believe goes. And I welcome dissenting opinions. Absolutely. 100%. I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one.